Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and in this video we're going to be talking about memetics, propaganda, Donald Trump, a new way to think about thoughts, brain hacking, and much more. This video is probably going to be a little bit broad compared to the other two in this series because I'm not tackling a specific claim or even idea. Instead, this video serves as an interrogation of the ideas that I have had while making this series and what they might mean for our future. Let's start with somewhere relatively simple. What is a meme? As denizens of the internet, we are certainly familiar with the internet meme, but what is a meme in general? Is this a meme? Is this? What about this? Oh my god, is everything a meme? Well, yes, everything around you is the embodiment of a meme. A meme is just an idea that is at least somewhat replicable. So the idea of a chair having 4 legs or being something that you sit on when you're tired, that is all just a series of memes that have evolved through the years so that they become what you may be sitting on today. A meme could also just be a story where the details change a little bit depending on who's telling it. A funny joke you heard once is a meme, but so is a conspiracy theory.
We can treat thoughts as though they're alive, specifically alive like germs. That might sound weird, but stick with me. Take jokes. Jokes are thought germs that live in your brain, and when you tell the joke to another brain, you help it to reproduce, just like when you have the flu and sneeze to help it reproduce. This germ gets into its host by snot through the mouth, and this one by words through the ear, but it's reproduction either way. Logging onto your social media then is exposing yourself to everyone's mental sneezes. Each post a glob of snot with a thought germ trying to get into your brain. If not for permanent residents, then at least long enough to get you to press the share button and sneeze it with everyone you know. In this analogy then, a funny cat photo with the perfect caption is a superflu. Now, just as germs exploit weak points in your immune system, so do thought germs exploit weak points in your brain, aka emotions. Once inside, thought germs that press emotional buttons get their host to spread them more, measurably more. Well,
meme is a word that gets its etymology mainly from the word gene, and it shares a lot in common with that conceptually as well. Like our genes are randomly matched and passed along to the next generation, with those who have adapted well to their environment doing well and others fading away, memes adapt to their environment. In a world with cars, the horse and buggy is kind of a dead meme. In a world where Bernie Sanders lost the 2020 primary, and then Donald Trump somehow lost the 2020 election, Bernie Sanders is going to be president in 2020 is a dead meme. But somehow, the meme that Donald Trump won is very much alive and well.
There's no way that Biden got 80 million votes. By the way, the only way he got 80 million votes is through a massive fraud.
What evidence of any widespread fraud have you seen in the count in Philadelphia?
I have not. If evidence of widespread fraud or evidence of any fraud at all is brought to our attention, we take a look at it and we refer it to law enforcement, as we always do in every election. I have seen the most fantastical things on social media, making completely ridiculous allegations that have no basis in fact at all, and see them spread. And I realize a lot of people are happy about this election, and a lot of people are not happy about this election. One thing I can't comprehend is how hungry people are to consume lies and to consume information that is not true.
So perhaps it's helpful to think of a meme as having a code in the way that our genome does. The way our favorite computer software does. Every meme that we experience in the world is just a complex interaction between various ideas that build a sort of code for its function. Let's take the memetic code of a standard wooden chair. We can alter the code by making it 3-legged, or making it out of metal or plastic, adding padding to it, removing the back, and turning it into something more like a bar stool. Or you can go the other way and add arms to it to make it more like an armchair. We can pad the whole thing and make it recline, and now we have a recliner. All of these things serve the same basic function within our environment. They provide a place for you to sit. However, by messing with the memetic code of ideas that we think are best for how to sit, and what makes for a good share or sale, we can get anything from a bar stool to a lazy boy recliner and more. If you mess around enough with the memetic code of a conspiracy theory, you can make a good faith hypothesis by removing all the parts that aren't backed up by evidence and logic. If a conspiracy theory isn't going viral enough, you can change parts of its memetic code to make it more shocking and shareable. As for the conspiracy that I critiqued in my first video, it had two immediate elements of memetics that made it work a little bit better than maybe other tellings of the same conspiracy theory. First, the caption, "Watch this before it's taken down," creates immediacy, which means that the viewer is more likely to watch it now, instead of taking their chances of watching it critically later, which is beneficial for the meme to infect and take spread. It all starts out with a stunning claim, and I mean stunning fairly literally here. If you look at the idea that Bill Gates wanted to change your DNA with a covert vaccine seriously, it's quite scary. And when the human body becomes scared of something, it activates the amygdala and the fight or flight response. But in doing so, it also turns down the volume on the frontal lobe, meaning that the facts that are delivered immediately after scaring you are less likely to be interpreted by the most critical part of your brain. This is a well understood physiological phenomenon, and it's been used in the field of hypnotics as a way of implanting unconscious thought without the person being consciously aware of it. But whether or not you believe that hypnotism is real on any level, so much doesn't matter here. But it should be telling to you that that field attempts to use this physiological defect of the human brain in order to manipulate the person listening. Because I think conspiracy theories and many memes do the same in order to get their listeners to engage with them on a more uncritical way, while belief takes hold.
Awe is pretty good, which is why websites that construct thought germs like biological weapons arm them with titles like 7 whatevers that will blow your mind or the shocking secret behind this thing. But anger is the ultimate edge for a thought germ. Anger bypasses your mental immune system and compels you to share it like nothing else.
Tricks like these take advantage of the brain's defective information processing aren't just physiological, but also exist logically and psychologically as well. Within logic, we refer to these as fallacies, which is why I did my best to point out some of the logical fallacies in my target video.
People are so disrespectful to authority, their parents, their government, our God, and the police. Right. People are so disrespectful in our culture, and the thing is, the Bible says, first honor your father and mother.
Many of these are often understood through psychology, and in relation to advertising and marketing, the most critical of these are called pressure points, which are psychological areas of stress that when pushed can cause someone to change their actions or beliefs in a way that is favorable to the one doing the pushing.
I had a boyfriend that told me, "You don't honor authority enough." And I was like, oh. And it was true. I didn't have as much honor as I needed. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to pray for authority. I'm going to stand for people. If I don't like something, I'm going to go to God about it, and God's going to change it. I prayed someone out, a sketchy person out of an apartment next to me. And they were like watching us every night, like when we were staying in our cars, scared. And I said, Lord, I pray them out. They moved within 2 weeks. So if you want things done, go to God and pray and watch things change. Exactly right. So that's how you change the world.
So first, while it's probably important to understand that your local meme lord or shitposter probably isn't utilizing psychological warfare against you, but that the possibility for all three of these things certainly exists within memetics and are often demonstrated quite readily by popular conspiracy theories. Something that always comes up in discussions of cyberpunk and transhumanism is this idea that implanting a computer into the brain makes us more inherently hackable. This makes sense because we think of hacking as a concept that happens within the realm of computer science, and we understand that it can be executed within binary or other computer languages. But genetics and memetics have similar code at their core, so why wouldn't you be able to hack either genetics or memetics in a similar way? First of all, as it should be apparent if you've watched through this series of videos, we absolutely can hack genetics on a certain level. Although one of the points I make in the first video is that if we attempt to utilize genetic hacking to change the way someone thinks, that would be a very difficult process that I don't think that we have the technological complexity to handle yet. So it's inherently fishy that anyone would suggest that we're there yet. The complexities lie in just how little we understand the complex relations of our genome. How does a very simple thing, that's something we wouldn't expect to influence thought, do to change a person's perception? And a lot of genetic changes could influence run-on effects like this, and could have ways of affecting other systems that we don't quite understand yet. So it seems like we're still pretty far off from using genetic editing to be able to hack a person on a biological level towards some sort of uniform predictable effect. But the thing is, we kinda seem to be there with memetics. What do you think about the brain as being both hardware and software, with genetics being the hardware, and the software being thought systems and thinking, orthodoxy, culture, etc.? then even if we can't modify the hardware, we can always change the software we're plugging into it. So as a way of understanding what memetics is, I'm going to be describing the brain as if it were computer hardware, and as if they were the computer software. Let's start by talking about operating system. The brain is a fascinating thing, in that it was built with a certain amount of code in order to keep your body running properly, but in terms of how we interact with reality, it's often based on our experiences during periods of heightened neurogenic development. This establishes our understandings of culture as well as a guiding philosophy. To a certain degree, every human being is walking around with a completely customized operating system in regards to helping interact with thoughts. While we could observe our most basic coding as being like a binary, this layer of philosophy is more like a computer language. The computer platforms on which viruses are most prevalent are typically the most orthodox operating systems and languages. This is why you see so many more computers on Windows than you do on Mac, which is a relatively smaller operating system in terms of worldwide usage. There's also the layer of language. In computer viruses, a virus will often use exploits in a particular computer language to cause the computer to do something unexpected, which is exactly what the programmer of the virus wants. Human language works much the same way, with our language often determining how we understand what is and isn't possible.
Yeah, I know a fair amount about copyright law, but I don't know anything about wolf pornography.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And how it is explained, therefore, creating different exploits that are specific to certain languages. The final step to help us humans interpret new information is related to culture. And we can compare this to a computer by saying that it would be a lot like having a program that works slightly differently because of the other programs on your computer at the same time. Of the three of these, this is the most interrelated and complex, so it's hard to speak about on a very specific level, but also simultaneously pretty important to mention to give you a complete understanding. So now let's get into designing a thought virus.
Just as transatlantic flights were the best thing to happen to germs, so the internet is the best thing to happen to thought germs. For once on board, that cat photo can leap into other brains, and those brains might share it, and here's the key point, occasionally change it. A Photoshop here, a tweaked caption there. Most changes are terrible, but some make the thought germ even funnier, getting more brains to share it, which results in more changes and a shot at superstardom. Thus, a lowly cat photo can achieve global brain domination, at least for a few hours.
Let's start by interacting with people's operating systems, because if we can get these to change, then other viruses might do a better job of being understood by them, and thus more able to infect a target person. Viruses like these could be a concept like neoliberalism, which started under one language in one part of the world, but was quickly interpreted and spread to other languages and locations. By convincing someone to change their basic philosophical operating system to neoliberalism, you make it easier to convince them of further claims like austerity that are based in neoliberalism's logic, but perhaps they wouldn't have fallen victim to if they had been using a different operating system. To move into the field of language, we can think about general use advertising, meant to appeal to a large national population. Even though it's meant to be appealing to anyone who speaks that particular language, because of the lack of culture or context, it really has to be rather general and ineffective in order to have any effect at all on that large of a market. The most effective thought viruses work on the level of context and culture, and are pretty targeted towards those they want to affect. Though this is the most effective method, it does require the target audience to share both an operating system, a language, and a context with the meme. This is why, to reach this level of Minecraft, it becomes very important to shift both persons' philosophy and their use of language in order to create within their mind the context in which the meme is most effective. The most effective parts of our political propaganda work on this level. For example, Catholics are especially easy to appeal to overall with a forced birth message, especially if you mention God, Jesus, or the Bible in your pitch. While I was writing this, I ran into Dan Olson's documentary about the time a traditional Catholic tricked a bunch of physicists into working on a geocentrum documentary with him. The video is a really good case study of how these conspiracy theories work, and I do recommend it as a supplement to this video. Links to that and my other video sources will be in the description.
And if Republican traitors like Kemp are not willing to show up for us, and Mitt
Mitt Romney and the rest of them, then we will not be willing to show up for them. Brian Kemp is a traitor!
Where's Governor Abrams?
Brad Raffensperger is a traitor! Any Republican that allows this to happen is complicit, and we will finish you.
I want to talk about memetics like this for a couple of reasons. It's becoming better utilized in politics. With the emergence of big data and big advertising, memetic code can be sent more effectively to those who might fall for it. But it's also something we feel like we understand but don't really talk about, and I think that's a bad sign.
So we know there's a fraud, there's no question. And I don't know about you, but I was awfully disappointed yesterday with Tucker Carlson. Did anybody see that? I mean, what the hell? We expect better. We do. And you know something? On election night, it was Fox News that first called Arizona prematurely for Biden.
Because just like CRISPR was a revolutionary tool in the advancement of genetics, the internet, big data, and advanced algorithms could be seen as similar breakthroughs in memetics. And we're already seeing the effects of that.
For example, this Project Veritas situation. So if you're unfamiliar, last week, Richard Hopkins, a US Postal Service employee in Erie, Pennsylvania, claimed that his supervisors were backdating ballots that were sent in after Election Day. But then, this week, we see reports that he recanted his statements in interviews with investigators, with him then last night claiming no, he didn't go back on his statement in another video posted by Project Veritas that has also been flagged by Twitter as a disputed claim about election fraud, with him saying,
I'm here to say that I did not recant my statements. That did not happen. That's not what happened.
That video also gets retweeted by President Trump. Of course, so many people see it because when we look closer, right, and we look at the reporting from local news, which, by the way, no matter where you are, please support your local news. It is dying out there, and it is so incredibly important for even national coverage.
In the back, they're blocking me in. That's fine. They're blocking me in. The Patriots followed me. This is their true colors. I want everyone to know they came. This is a hate crime. They're coming up to my car right now.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Get out of the car!
I'm not scared. If I was scared, I would have left. I need everyone to see this. That's why I'm chilling right here. For what? You called me what?
What I don't like about it, even more than the usual thing about the toxic metals that are in vaccines that make our bodies literally into an antenna with 5G, this one has the usual non-human DNA, like, you know, monkeys, maybe fetal cells, pigs, whatever. And so it begins to make us what's called chimers, C-H-I-M-E-R, introducing non-human DNA into our bodies. What is worse, though, is that there is a patent and work that they've done at MIT to make a dye, and the dye is called luciferase. And under a light, you'd be able to see who was vaccinated, who wasn't.
I don't know what is going to happen. I know one thing: Joe Biden did not get 80 million votes. And I got 74 million, but there were many ballots thrown away, so I got much more than that. But I got 74 million. 74 million is 11 million more than I got last time. The people are very disappointed that we were robbed. This election was a rigged election. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. You can see why they sat him at the kids' table on Thanksgiving. This was a child having a tantrum. He lost the election. Right now, Joe Biden is even going through the transition process. They finally greenlit that part. And still, he will not let this go.
From the inside looking out, it feels all very deranged.
Deranged.
At the end of the day, we are counting eligible votes cast by voters. The controversy surrounding it is something I don't understand. It's people making accusations that we wouldn't count those votes, or people are adding fraudulent votes, or just coming up with just all sorts of crazy stuff.
Accusations like you are cheating.
Yes.
You are manipulating the vote.
Yes. Or calls to our offices reminding us that this is what the Second Amendment is for. People like us.
You're getting calls like that?
Yes.
That's a not so veiled death threat.
Yes. For counting votes in a democracy.
Donald Trump seems to be the researcher at the forefront of uncovering the connection between memetics and the consolidation of power and influence. He practically memed his way into the White House. And this wasn't just harmless shitposting. Almost all politicians lie. Trump's innovation was to lie faster. Like patient zero of an awful virus, he spreads viral lies faster than the immune system of the information industry could deal with them. If getting your tweet on the national news is any indication of virality, Donald Trump's tweets went viral nearly every day. Trump also crossed a language barrier in popularizing the term fake news, borrowing directly from a term popularized in German by Hitler, introducing a phrase he would consistently use to decry any attempts for the media's immune system to fact-check his consistent barrage of lies. Increasingly, our politicians may seek to change our beliefs or even behavior through targeted memetics, sharpshooting our logical flaws until we believe what they want us to believe, and each of us live in a custom reality where we can justify their increasingly heinous actions. But that's not all, because in comparison to computer code, memetics hides a secret weapon. A Trojan horse is a piece of malicious code that gets into your computer and either makes a backdoor or holds one open for its friends. The Trojan horse itself might not be dangerous, but this is a computer code's equivalent of HIV. And this same structure exists within memetics as well, and you could already be infected. It's the humble conspiracy theory. It may seem like a harmless thing to just believe, accepting irrational ideas on faith, or because it makes a complex idea easier to feel like you understand. But it's a bad mental habit that will over time destroy your body's memetic immune system via exposure. The evidence of that is already apparent in human studies.
Keep in mind, we're talking about what makes some thought germs successful, particularly angry ones, and not how good or how bad the thoughts themselves are. Deep breath, calm. Thought germs can burn out because once everyone agrees, it's hard to keep talking and thus thinking about them. But if there's an opposing thought germ, an argument, then the thinking never has to stop. The disagreement doesn't have to be angry, but again, angry helps. The more visible an argument gets, the more bystanders it draws in, which makes it more visible, which is why every group from the most innocuous internet forum to the national conversation can turn into a double rage storm across the sky in no time. Wait, these thought germs aren't competing, they're cooperating. Working together, they reach more brains and hold their thoughts longer than they could alone. Thought germs on opposite sides of an argument can be symbiotic. One tool symbiotic anger germs in particular can employ is you're with us or against us. Whatever thought germ does left to the front of your brain, push it back. This video isn't about that. We're just talking about this tool, which makes it very hard for neutral brains to resist, and its divisiveness also grows its symbiotic partner. This explains why in some arguments gaining more allies also gains more enemies, because though the participants think they're involved in a fiery battle to the death, from the anger germ's perspective, one side is a field of flowers and the other a flock of butterflies. Of course planting more flowers will get you more butterflies, and getting more butterflies will pollinate more flowers. If there is some argument that splits the population and lasts forever and that even the most neutral people find difficult to avoid, you just might be looking at a super successful pair of symbiotic anger germs that have reached ecological stability.
What information is not true? To be clear.
Just the other day, I saw something that had it was a long list of people that they said were dead voters who voted in Philadelphia. So when we took a break between everything else that we're doing, we looked it up, each one of them, to see what their vote history was. Not a single one of them voted in Philadelphia after they died. It's one of these things that kind of bounces around out there, that echoes around, that people say from one to another. They heard something, or they heard from someone who saw something that they think might have been X, Y, or Z. And it's really impossible to keep up with those.
Also, that note that he ends on is incredibly important because it's like what we've talked about for months now. You have this fire hose of misinformation and lies that has been going non-stop, so it becomes impossible to fact check everything. One spreads far faster than the other. But also, even when you have Republicans like Al Schmidt that are saying, no, this is the reality of the situation, it doesn't matter. Because almost immediately we saw Donald Trump doing what he always does. He either says, oh, that person was a secret never Trumper, or they're a rhino, right? A Republican in name only. They're not supporting your president, even though the president spews lies so often. He's not supporting your president. He's not one of the good ones.
In these studies, researchers have discovered that if a person believes one conspiracy theory, they're more likely to entertain whole constellations of uncritical thought. It seems that letting the first one in weakens your ability to defend against more as you continue to fall deeper and deeper down an uncritical rabbit hole. But there's another potential explanation for this. What if there's something deeper about us that causes this nearly all or nothing reaction? I don't believe that having these patterns of thinking mean a person will adopt uncritical belief, but it does show us who might really want to take extra care, because research shows that certain personality features can serve as an indicator of a tendency to believe conspiracy theories, indicating a weak mimetic immune system. In an interview with Josh Hart, associate professor of psychology, he suggests that people with certain personality traits and cognitive styles are more likely to believe conspiracy theories. The research was recently published in the Journal of Individual Differences. These people tend to be more suspicious, untrusting, eccentric, needing to feel special, with a tendency to regard the world as an inherently dangerous place, Hart said. They are also more likely to detect meaningful patterns where they might not exist. People who are reluctant to believe in conspiracy theories often have opposite qualities. Our results clearly showed that the strongest predictor of conspiracy belief was a constellation of personality characteristics collectively referred as schizotypy, Hart said. The trait borrows its name from schizophrenia, but does not imply a clinical diagnosis. Hart's study also showed that conspiracists have distinct cognitive tendencies. They were more likely than non-believers to judge nonsensical statements as profound, a tendency known as BS receptivity. Either way, it's important for us to realize that when a reality is ambiguous, our personalities and cognitive biases cause us to adopt the beliefs that we do. This knowledge can help us understand our own intuitions. This also makes sense considering that many conspiracy theories tend to hit conservative voters harder.
Their last dying words are, this can't be happening, it's not real. And when they should be spending time FaceTiming their families, they're filled with anger and hatred.
Decades of research have shown that people get more conservative when they feel threatened and afraid. For example, threats of terrorism made everyone less liberal. Researchers found out this was especially true in the months after 9/11. During that time, the US saw a conservative shift, and Americans displayed increased support for military spending and for President George W. Bush. But something to keep in mind is that this pandemic is not only naturally ramping up our fear, but also our anxiety and depression as well, which combined with too much time alone this year, is shifting us all closer towards being willing to believe that it's all a conspiracy. Conspiracy theories are as old as human society, of course, and in days when communities were small and vulnerable, being on guard for hidden plots was likely a matter of personal survival, some scientists would argue. But in the modern era, scientists like Theodore Adorno and Richard Hofstadter have identified conspiracy beliefs and paranoia as central elements in political movements. I don't know about you, but I don't like the way this is going, and I hope this video can do enough to arm your mimetic immune system enough to be able to fight back this mental infection while we're waiting on a vaccine to arrive so that life can get back to normal. And we don't have to be so afraid, paranoid, and anxious all the time. Which makes it an especially bad time to be believing that an RNA vaccine can change your DNA. So please, take your damn vaccine so we can leave our houses.
Just one more thing before I roll credits on this. I recently became aware of the No Comrades Under 1K sub, and I would just like to throw up on the screen some comrades that I'm subscribed to that have not yet reached 1,000 subs, but I really feel like they deserve it. So check these channels out, like their videos, give them a subscription, do what you can to help them out, share them on Facebook, whatever social media platforms you happen to be on, and let's try to build a stronger community together.
I'm Jackie Fox, and my content will always be ad-free because I'm eschewing corporate donations to the channel. I just ask that if you can donate a little bit of money on Patreon like these fine, foxy folks, or if you want to make a one-time donation, you can donate on Ko-fi. If you're looking for another way to support the channel, I'm also making Fox hats with my logo on them. They are currently in the design phase, and I'm willing to allow people to ask for customized hats. Prices may vary depending on the cost of labor to manufacture them, because I want to make sure that my workers are paid fairly.